What's up everyone, I'm the Kaiju no Kami, and today I'm going to do a clipless top 10 on my top 10 favorite video games of all time. Or kind of thus far, since it's not like I'm stopping on video games. Unless they go all digital. Then I'll stop gaming, at least for new games.
Number 10.
Mega Man 2 might have been the first video game I ever played, but my favorite of the franchise, and one of my favorite games of all time, is the original Mega Man X. Well, I don't own the original copy, they're in here. But Mega Man X, fun time all around, is a game I always replay over and over. I've been replaying it ever since I first bought it, back when it first came out on the Super Nintendo. I've had a blast with it. There was also a PSP remake called Maverick Hunter X that was really good. I wish they would bring Maverick Hunter X to the PS4, port it over, because it's kind of like a lost art on the PSP since the PSP no longer exists. It may not be a perfect remake, as there are some things I do like better in the original version than this one, but this one definitely enhances the story outside of like this one video there to kind of kill off a character, which makes no sense. Whatever. It's a crime that Capcom did not remake 2 and 3 in this style, but whatever. If you've never played Mega Man X, check it out. There are multiple ways to do so.
Number 9.
Next on my list is one of the best PS2 games ever made, maybe even the best PS2 game, and that is the first God of War. It took what was great about the Devil May Cry series and put it into Greek mythology. And then it was the only God of War game that truly had a legit 100% conclusive ending, even though they kind of retconned the ending for the sequels. It is the only God of War game you could actually sit down and play without having played any others and enjoy it for its story. You don't have to play any other games if you don't want to, because, as I said, it was a conclusive ending. They just said, this is what happens, boom. That's not to say the sequels aren't amazing, because God of War 2 was really good, God of War 3 was excellent, God of War 4 that came out for the PS4 when they went into Norse mythology is top-notch, but for me, nothing beats the original. Oh yes, there are 2 PSP games that were then ported over to the PlayStation 3. They're good, not great, but good. And I guess there was another prequel to a prequel that's a prequel or something, which that game I touched for a few minutes and just didn't like.
Number 8.
I gotta hand it to Rockstar Games. When they make a good game, they make a damn good game, as they did recently in Red Dead Redemption 2. I really, really loved this game. It is so realistic, so immersive, so gorgeous. The plot is well done, the gameplay is great. Yes, the realism can get a little too realistic at times, but it's unique to what you see in a video game. There are some frustrations I have with the game. Nevertheless, this may be my favorite game on the PlayStation 4. The world truly feels alive. Quests were enjoyable. It was an entertaining ride. The ending had a holy shit moment to it. Then it has like these epilogue chapters that were even more badass. I love the first Red Dead Redemption. In fact, I kept going back and forth. Do I like Red Dead Redemption 1 better, or do I like the Red Dead Redemption 2 better? However, the improvements overall, I have to give the edge to Red Dead Redemption 2, even if there are some tiny aspects I like better in the first Red Dead Redemption. I would love to see Rockstar remaster Red Dead Redemption 1 though. Truly an epic game, despite its huge ass install size. Ugh. That was the worst part of the game.
Number 7.
Here's a game I always heard people talk about when it came out on the N64. I never had the chance to play it because I didn't own it in 64 at the time. And that is Zelda Ocarina of Time. I played it on the 3DS for the first time when it came out in 3D. And I have to say this game truly lived up to its hype. It is very enjoyable. I know a lot of people hated the water temple. For me, it is the most thought-provoking dungeon in the entire game, so that is why it's my favorite. I love the switching between adult Link and child Link. I love the mythology this game builds. The music is top-notch. I now understand why everyone loves this game to death. It definitely was worth it.
Number 6.
Speaking of games that lived up to their hype, Final Fantasy VI. Kefka has become my favorite Final Fantasy character because of this game, and I can truly see why people said he was better than Sephiroth, because he was. Halfway through the game, Kefka wins. How many video games can you say your villain wins? This is like the Infinity War and Endgame of the Final Fantasy series, maybe even of video games in general, because of all the shit that goes down. Not to mention that every character is interesting, every character is useful, the music is top notch, the attacks, especially the magic spells, are cool to watch. It is without a doubt the best Final Fantasy game, one of the best RPGs of all time, and obviously one of the best video games of all time. If you have never played Final Fantasy VI and you've played any other Final Fantasy game, do so. Sure, I enjoyed Final Fantasy VII. It was my first RPG ever. This one is just so much better. Pretty much everything that Final Fantasy VII has in this game was because of this.
Number 5.
The Grand Theft Auto series is unique. It was a game that revolutionized gaming with an open world, and it's kind of hard for me to truly choose which one of 3 GTA games are my favorite. I really love San Andreas, I really love 5, but I think my favorite goes to Vice City. The 80s aspect really keeps this game interesting. The music is top notch. I never knew I liked 80s music until I played this game. While the visuals are PS era visuals for the time, they were incredible. I love all the neon lighting. The story is interesting, and because of this game, I got into Scarface, which is now one of my favorite movies of all time. In fact, Scarface is one of those movies I end up watching like every year now thanks to this game. And every time I play this game, I feel like watching Scarface. When I watch Scarface, I feel like playing this game. I've 100%ed it on the PS3, the PS4, and the PS2. I absolutely love this game. It does have some limitations because of its hardware. I would love to see Vice City come back in the 80s in modern day technology.
Number 4.
The next game on my list is a game I played over and over and over again. In fact, all these games are games I replayed over again. They're coming up now. But this one was really special, and that was Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I don't really know what I can say about this game. You know about it. If you don't know about it, you've probably heard about it. It's like Metroid, but with Castlevania. You play as Alucard, you build up stats, you fight demons, you kill Dracula. The end. It's simple, yet the gameplay is enriching. It's a fun time all around. The story is not too bad. The soundtrack is just incredible. One of the best video game soundtracks of all time. But then again, the Castlevania series as a whole just has some of the best video game music ever. At least it did until Lords of Shadow. Then it just went. Anyway, one of the coolest things about this aspect though was when you play through the game, you think you beat the game and they're like, nope, screw you. We have a castle in the sky that is an exact mirror image of this castle. And you're like, what? That's not fair. And then you got to go through another castle, go through all the rooms, but all the rooms are different. It's just a good game all around and really keeps you on your toes. And this game just had one memory for me because I rented this game when it first came out, but I didn't have a memory card, so I didn't know you needed a memory card to save at that time. And during my weekend rental, I had to redo the beginning of the game over and over and over again. So then I went out and bought a memory card with my allowance like 2 weeks later, so that when I would get this game, because I put it on my Christmas list, I'd be prepared. And I was. And I kicked ass in this game. And the game did kick my ass at times too. It may not have the greatest voice acting, although if you played on the PSP version, they redubbed it, which was great because the new dubbing is so much better. It's just I would prefer to play it on my TV, so this is the way to go. If they were to ever re-release the PSP version, but on the PS4 where I can play it on my full setup, then I would have no problem playing with the brand new dubbing. But until then, this is my go-to version.
Number 3.
This one's kind of tough. Not really this game specifically, but it's part of a whole trilogy, and you kind of need the whole trilogy for the game to work. It was the first time I ever was screening the game's ending because it left off to be continued. But the game was so good. And the sequels are just as good. But since I'm only putting one game per franchise on the list, I'm going with this one because it was the one I played the most. And that was Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. For those on the know, there was a game called Blood Omen, Legacy of Kain, where you played as Kain who became a vampire. It was kind of like an overhead RPG type game. The game had 2 different endings, one where you save the world, one where you conquer the world. The Soul Reaver series goes with the ending of where Kain decides to take over the world because it follows after Kain has become the world's ruler. A vampire by the name of Razia was born with wings, which Kain's upset about, so he rips the guy's wings off, throws him into this abyss. The abyss brings Raziel back as a Soul Reaver, so he has to eat souls to continue living. It's just an intriguing game. It kind of plays like a Zelda game with Metroid abilities where you have to go to these sections and, oh, you don't have the ability to access this part, so you got to go to a different spot. Okay, now you gain that ability. Now you can go back over there. So it's kind of like Metroidvania, but it's also kind of like Zelda in that regard. And it's just a good series all around. The voice acting is top-notch. The music, once again, rocks, especially in the sequel, Soul Reaver 2, which came out for the PS2. Sadly, it's a game series that went by under the radar, and because it didn't do so well as a total in sales, we haven't had a new game since like 2004. And that is a major crime. This series deserves more games. This series deserves more attention. Crystal Dynamics was apparently working on an online game that Square decided to kill or something called Nazgob, which is the realm this game takes place in. If you have never played Soul Reaver, play the whole goddamn series right now. Stop this video, pick up this trilogy, pick up the other ones, Blood Omen and Blood Omen 2, play them in the order of Blood Omen, Soul Reaver 2, Defiance, Blood Omen 2. Because even though Blood Omen 2 technically came out before Defiance, it takes place after Defiance. It's a confusing thing. The game deals with time travel, so there's a lot of confusion going on if you try to think about it too hard. Don't worry about it. It all makes sense when you truly think about it, but when you first play it, you're going to be like, what? But nevertheless, Soul Reaver, you must play it. People need to know more about this series. People need to start demanding new Soul Reaver games. I would personally love a remake of Soul Reaver, but it remade in full of what it was originally intended to be. Because this game, originally, it was supposed to be like twice the size it ended up being. The one part where the game actually leaves off to be continued was actually supposed to be the midpoint of the game, and there was supposed to be this whole other aspect. Due to production issues, they couldn't do that, so what they decided to do is go with the time travel plot that then leads into Soul Reaver 2 and Defiance. Like I said, I would love to see them remake Soul Reaver, but have the original planned story for the remake. They can definitely do it in this day and age if they wanted to. So Soul Reaver, go now.
Number 2.
Besides Soul Reaver and Castlevania Symphony of the Night, one of the other games I was always replaying over on my PlayStation was Resident Evil 2. I did a review on the remake last year. For the remake is just as good as the original. You need to play these games. If you're not a fan of fixed camera angles and tank controls, definitely play the remake. Both games are top-notch, phenomenal, the best of their genre, the best of the series. I don't really know if I really need to explain the Resident Evil series at this point. Basically, zombie apocalypse, people trying to survive, it's survival horror. Resident Evil is the reason the survival horror genre became as big as it is with games like Carrier, Silent Hill, Haunting Ground, Dino Crisis, and so forth. If it wasn't for Resident Evil, none of those would exist. Left 4 Dead wouldn't exist, The Walking Dead wouldn't exist, and so forth. Resident Evil 2, must-play games. Whether you play both or just play one or the other, it doesn't matter. Very atmospheric, keeps you on your toes the entire game, keeps you in suspense, keeps you going. Just great all around.
Number 1.
My favorite game of all time? Super Metroid. I don't know why. I just absolutely love the whole mythology revolving around the Metroid game. The stories seem basic, and yet there's so much going into them without there being actual dialogue. That's one of the great things about this game. Plus, with this game, I'm always discovering new things 20 frickin' years later. In more recent years, there's one boss I learned that you could actually use an item to electrocute the boss instead of just shooting him with missiles the entire time. Why the hell did I not know that as a kid? That would have made this boss battle so much easier. There are shortcuts you could do so you could get through the game quickly. You could beat the game technically in like 26 minutes if you know exactly what you're doing. Personally, I just love to take the time to experience the whole game for what it has to offer. I like to go through it. I like to 100% it. Back when I was a kid, I'd speedrun through the game to get the cool ending when Samus's costume came off. But as an adult, I just like to enjoy the entire atmosphere, get everything I can. The music is enjoyable. Sometimes I would just stop moving and listen to the music for a while. That's how good the soundtrack is. And at the time, being as a kid, sometimes that was the only way to listen to game soundtracks. You just have to pause your game and listen to the music, enjoy it before you go back to playing your game. I love this game so much, which is why I still have my Super Nintendo copy here, which also has the box, the manual, even though it's kind of torn there. It reminds me of the Legacy of Kain series. It's very underrated. Nintendo treats this like it's their bastard stepchild they don't want. And that's a shame because it is their best franchise. On the positive side, at least they don't make a sequel like every frickin' year, and then like a soccer game, and a sports game, and an Olympic game, and Metroid Kart, Metroid Smash Brothers. Granted, Samus and Ridley are in Smash Brothers, but still. At least they don't go overboard on the merchandising, except for that awful Federation game. Anyway, those are my top 10 favorite video games thus far. What do you think of the list? What are your top favorite video games you have played over and over and over again? Let me know in the comments. Click like, click subscribe, click the bell notification, click whatever else YouTube has you clicking in to support me. You can support me on Patreon at Kaiju no Kami, Twitter Kaiju no Kami, Facebook Kaiju no Kami, Instagram Kaiju no Kami, which I promise I will start posting on there. I will get better. I just need to figure out how. And my website, creativitybydesignllc.com. Until next time, bye.